Hello, Katie here. One of the most frequently asked questions that I get from people who buy one of my nuno felted garments is, how do I take care of this? So I'm here to demonstrate and to show you how easy it actually is. It's no different than what you would do if you've ever washed a fine cashmere sweater. Of course, you can always send it to the dry cleaners, but I recommend against that for a variety of reasons. One, it's not friendly on the environment. The chemicals that are left behind are not necessarily good for your skin. And it's also costly. It's not necessary either. The other reason I don't recommend dry cleaning is that it's really hard on the fibers of your nuno felted piece. I work with the finest merino wool that you can buy and silk, and those can be damaged easily if mishandled. So I've created an easy method for you to be able to care for your garments without a lot of trouble that takes in consideration the specific requirements for the fine merino wool. And if you think about it, fine merino wool is very similar to hair, especially hair like mine that is very, very thin. So you've got to be gentle on it so it doesn't fray or get dry or wear prematurely. The first step is to take your garment. I've got this piece that I've worn several times now. I call it my cow piece because it kind of looks like cow hooves on the side. And I live in Wisconsin. We have a lot of cows and I love them. But anyway, the key here is not to manhandle your clothes. You're going to try to, particularly when they're wet, to be very gentle with them so they don't shrink, because they can shrink if you wring them or if you toss them or manhandle them. So the best way to make sure that that doesn't happen is to fold your garment or scarf or shawl, whatever you have, and make a very tepid, very cool basin of water with shampoo that's designed for fine hair. I've tried a lot of shampoos. I really like this one. It's inexpensive. It's designed for very thin hair fibers wool, and it's also anti-frizz. One of the things that I came across very early on was problem with static cling with the dresses and skirts that I would wear. And so the process that I'm going to share with you actually prevents that. I was really happy to find out that it does, because I was trying all different kinds of stuff. The spray that you put on for anti-cling, which I absolutely hate, doesn't work as well as what I'm going to demonstrate today. And also I tried rubbing. Somebody said, well, you just rub your garments with dryer sheets, and that didn't work as well either. So what you're going to see today will also work against your garments cleaning in the middle of the winter. So this is a good choice. If you can't find this, any other gentle shampoo that is designed for very fine hair and also designed to be anti-frizz. So that's what I've got here. I also find that whisking the shampoo with a whisk into the water is very helpful, because it's the water's on the cooler side. The shampoo doesn't naturally just go into it. Besides, you don't have agitation like you would if you were using it for your head. So I just simply fold the garment, put it in there in the basin, and press down with my fists. And pressing down will take out the air bubbles of the garment. You know, with wool, once it's made into something, whether it be knit wear or nuno felted or just wet felted or dry felted for that matter, it has a lot of air pockets in it. It's one of the reasons it helps you stay warm. Those air pockets are good insulators. So you don't want to squeeze them out with your fists, or wring them, but rather just very gently press out the air. And sometimes this requires patience, particularly if the garment is very big. But you'll know when it's done because the piece won't float to the top. It will stay pretty much submerged. So you can leave it submerged for anywhere from half an hour, and if you've got things to do, you can leave it for the next day. But leave it in there for a while so that the water is able to penetrate into the fibers and wash out the dirt and grime when you rinse it. So once you're done letting your garment rest in the soapy water, before you take it out to rinse, just press down with your hands again to swish out the water in and out from the garment. And then when you lift it out of there, it should still be folded. And what you can do is just put this in your sink, and a lot of water will drain out on its own. You can do that while you empty the basin and fill it with some cool, clean water. So much like washing it, you put this back into the cool, clean water, press in and out. And do that about twice through 2 basins of clean water, and it will be sufficiently rinsed. So I've already done this to another garment. Rinsed out, and the next step is to let it set in cream rinse. Now cream rinse, again designed for hair, is designed to restore the acidity of your wool. Much like our hair, wool likes to be a little bit on the acid side, pH of about 5.5, but the cleansers are a higher pH because that enables them to be more effective in cleansing. But in terms of keeping the fiber intact and more resilient, you want to balance the pH back to its normal pH, and that's where the cream rinse comes in. So there are 2 types that I've used. I've tried a lot of different kinds, extremely expensive ones to very inexpensive ones. And believe it or not, the one that I found that works best for me is one of the less expensive ones. It's an anti-frizz product, VO5 conditioner, works great, absolutely love it. The problem is I can no longer find it. I think they've discontinued it. If you can find it, please let me know. I'll stockpile it. My second go-to is another conditioner that is a little bit more expensive because you get more, but it's pretty affordable, and this works very well as well. But again, my first choice would be this, just because of its effectiveness in terms of the anti-static. It is an anti-frizz after all. So much like the shampoo, cool basin of water, mix in the conditioner after you've rinse the garment thoroughly. It's still folded. You put it in here. You push it down with your hands to make sure all the bubbles are out. And then you want it to sit in the conditioner for, I would say, at least 10 minutes. I go 10 minutes to half an hour, or overnight for that matter. Now I'm not over my sink, so normally I would put this in my sink and I would just squeeze the water out, again gently. You do not, I repeat, you do not want to rinse the cream rinse out. Leaving the cream rinse water on your garment is what makes it anti-frizz. So if I were over my sink, this would be a little bit better drained, but nonetheless, the next step is to put your, in this case it's a skirt now, I'm going to put my skirt on top of a towel, and while it's in its wet phase, if you want to shape it differently than what it started out, this is your chance to do it. Oftentimes I gain a few pounds and I need it a little bit bigger somewhere than it was, and this is a good time to do it. So if I need the waist a little bit bigger, I just tug on the waist Same with the hips. Hips is usually where I have to pull it out. And then etc., etc. But this is a good opportunity to shape your garment if you want or need to. If you don't want to, you just lay it flat and make sure it's back in its original shape. Now, what you do not want to do is roll this up. As soon as you roll it up to dry it, you are going to be using the technique that's used to shrink garments at the very end of making nuno felted pieces. So you do not want to do that. It'd be an effective way of drying this, but please don't. Instead, what you're going to want to do is bring the towel onto itself over the garment. And if your garment's larger than a towel, of course, you could just use another towel and press down to breast down all the water that you can. Now, this is not going to be completely dry, but it's going to be dry enough such that when you take it off of here, you'll be able to place it on a completely dry towel, or I know I've got a shelf that's like a mesh, so air comes through the two sides to dry. But you just press. Everything is pressing from the washing to the rinsing to the drying. And again, it's not going to be really dry like you would get out of a dryer, but it will be dry enough to take the next step. The next step is to put it on a dry towel and let it dry overnight. Usually overnight is long enough, depending on the humidity. In the winter, it's much shorter because it's much drier here. Obviously in the summer, it's much wetter, so it takes a longer period of time, and then that's it. You'll notice that the cream rinse will make the garment really soft and really help with static. So that's it. The next video I'm going to make is to answer this a disaster that I got from one of my customers who lives near me. She had a white dress and went to have dinner, and she spilled a balsamic vinegar dressing down the front, and she was horrified. So I'm going to show you how to deal with mishaps of that nature.